Welcome, everyone. Like I said, we're going to have opportunities to answer questions at the end. If you have questions, please just add those to the chat box. And right now, feel free to introduce yourself, include your name, the farmer's market, or organization that you represent. And because June is Dairy Month, your favorite ice cream flavor. My name is Andrew Bernhardt. I am a new Ag Program Specialist in the Division of Agriculture Development at DATCP. I recently moved back to Wisconsin after working for 5 years at the nonprofit food hub in the Twin Cities called the Good Acre. Prior to that, working 6 years at UW Extension as a state community food systems development specialist and state coordinator for the USDA Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education program called SARE. My role at DATCP is in providing support in organic grazing and specialty crop production, as well as conducting outreach for underserved farmers. A few housekeeping items as we get started. Please keep yourself on mute throughout the presentation. If you have any questions, type those in the chat box. And if your name is a little bit hard to pronounce, you can include any hints on how to correctly pronounce your name in the chat box as well. If your question is very specific to your own situation or difficult to answer, we'll be happy to follow up with you after this webinar. And if you have a different type of preferred contact information, please include that as well so that we know how best to get in touch with you. And we're recording this webinar for future viewing, so please be respectful with your questions and comments. Today's webinar will consist of 4 sections. Like I said, my name is Andrew, and I will kick us off by giving an overview of the 2 main food assistance programs and how farmers and farmers markets can get registered to accept payments from customers who want to pay with these food assistance programs. Next, Jess Rutstein from the Wisconsin Department of Health Services will talk about an opportunity that allows farmers and farmers markets to get a free wireless point-of-sale EBT processing equipment. Jess is an advanced program and policy analyst on the FoodShare team within the Wisconsin Department of Health Services. Since joining the team in October of 2020, her main projects have been designing and implementing the pandemic EBT program, facilitating the department's FoodShare outreach partnerships, and managing the wireless EBT equipment grant program. Then Sarah Smith from the University of Wisconsin's Extension's FoodWise SNAP Ed program will talk about the services, support, and technical assistance they provide so that you can operate and promote your EBT program to customers once you are registered and have the necessary equipment. Sarah is the Policy Systems and Environment Specialist for FoodWise at the University of Wisconsin, Madison Division of Extension. She works with Extension staff across the state to support them in improving access to healthy foods and physical activity for Wisconsin families with limited incomes. She focuses on improving the food and built environment in schools, emergency food systems, and retail settings. Then Sheena Tesh from Rooted, who runs the Troy Farm Community Supported Agriculture Program, will share her experience accepting FoodShare payments and how to accept FoodShare payments for a CSA program. Sheena joined Rooted in 2018 as the Troy Farm Manager. She has farmed all over the country for a decade, from growing organic seeds in California to homesteading in Vermont, and has a particular interest working to increase food sovereignty. So thank you to 3 very talented presenters to come and present with me today. And the last portion of today's webinar will be for your questions. The 2 main programs, food assistance programs that I'll be highlighting today, SNAP, which is called various different things in different states. In Wisconsin, it's called FoodShare. Mainly people pay with that with their EBT card. And then the DHS operated Farmers Market Nutrition Program for WIC and seniors. WIC is an acronym for Women, Infants, and Children. Next. So for SNAP, to become a SNAP authorized retailer, the first thing you need to do is become a registered retailer with USDA Food and Nutrition Services, FNS. You apply online, and applying is free and only conducted by USDA FNS. You'll need to gather some supporting documentation, and once you've started this online application, you have 30 days to complete it, otherwise it's deleted, and can take up to 45 days once your completed application is received to become authorized. You may be asked additional questions, and sometimes a site visit is common. Next. Before you can apply online, you need to register with USDA to get that online kind of registered account. That's called the e-authentication account. This is the link that you'll use, and you'll click the customer as the user type. Once you have that, then you can kind of apply online to become a retailer. Next. Like I mentioned earlier, you'll need to provide some supporting documentation with your application. I called and asked about this, and I was told that color copies are essential. And the three main types of supporting documentation is a copy, some kind of proof of your Social Security number. That could be a tax form, insurance card. There's different examples there. A photo ID, and then there's going to be a signature page that you need to complete. I was told that follow-up site visits are common. Now, there's some exceptions to this. If you're a nonprofit farmer's market, then you only need the photo ID and signature page. And if you're a government-owned farmer's market, like from some kind of municipality, then you only need the signature page. Next. Once you become a registered retailer, you'll be issued a SNAP permit. This includes your FNS number. This is what you need to get your EBT point of sale card reader. And that SNAP permit you need to display when you're selling your produce. If you have any questions about this process, there's the SNAP Retailer Service Center. There's the phone number, and there's the call hours. I actually called them a few times and found them mostly helpful. Next. The other program that I'm going to be talking about today is managed by the Wisconsin Department of Health Services, DHS. This is the Farmers Market Nutrition Program. There is the WIC Farmers Market Nutrition Program and the Senior Farmers Market Nutrition Program. WIC is for mothers and kids 9 months to 5 years that meet the financial eligibility requirements, and for seniors 16 older or Native Americans 55 and older. This program provides eligible individuals with $30 to purchase locally grown fresh fruits and vegetables at the farmers markets or farm stands. Next. To be eligible, a farmer must meet all of the following requirements. They must grow one or more of the FMNP approved foods, and there is a list. There are a couple of items that may not be on this list, and you should become familiar with it if this is something you're interested in pursuing. The farmer can produce, located in Wisconsin or 50 miles of the Wisconsin border, and the farmer's market or farm stand has to be approved as well. If a farmer wants to sell through this program, they have to attend a face-to-face training, which is required. That is coordinated by the local DHS location. So you need to contact them about obtaining materials and scheduling that training. Next. Once you get through that training and are approved, you'll receive a letter of certification, a copy of the signed agreement, a sign that you will post at your stall or stand similar to the SNAP permit, and then you'll receive a stamp, and it's actually like a stamp that you use to validate the checks, or sometimes referred to as coupons, that participants pay with. And then a letter that you need to take to the bank explaining what these checks are. And then there's contact information with the state office. Next. So the customers will be paying with the voucher checks. These voucher checks can be used between June through the end of October. These voucher checks you take to your bank and get them cashed. Make sure that your bank accepts these. I have heard about issues surrounding this and the confusion sometimes with banks. Next. For farmers markets, to be an eligible farmers market, you need to have an established location where you have the farmers market, an established time when that happens, and at least 3 farmers present during market hours. And here's a link to that form for that application. So that is the overview of the 2 different programs. And we'll be handing it over to the next presenter.
All right, hi everybody. Thanks for the introduction, Andrew. My name is Jess Rustine, work with the Department of Health Services on the FoodShare team, and going to talk about our ongoing wireless EBT equipment grant. So we can go to the next slide. So who is eligible for this grant? There are just a couple important criteria that you need to meet in order to apply for and be considered eligible. The first of which is that you must be an existing FoodShare retailer with an authorized FNS number. So just like Andrew was talking about, if you have gone through that process with the USDA and have that official, I believe it's usually a 7-digit number, that is important for us to be able to get you the equipment through this grant. You must be a farmer's market or direct marketing farmer, which I believe our application form has the definition of, but probably most people on this call would meet that criteria, no problem. You have to be a Wisconsin farmer's market or direct marketing farmer. And then the final criteria is that you cannot have received another piece of EBT processing equipment that was paid for through a federal program or through federal dollars, which is, we've heard, a little bit less clear. So I wanted to make sure to highlight that here for anybody listening. You can go to the next slide. So how to apply. Oh, I'm sorry, the color does not pop there, but you will, I think, get sent a copy of this presentation. Most people apply online. That link will take you to the form that you can fill out, and then you email it back to us. You email it back to dhsfarmersmarket@dhs.wisconsin.gov. That email address is included in this PowerPoint next to my name. If needed, we can also mail paper copies of the application. You just need to let us know by sending us an email or giving us a call, and we can get that to you. Applications are accepted all the way through August of this year for this program. You can go to the next slide. So the biggest decision that anyone who's interested in this grant is going to need to make is which of the 3 equipment options you would like or is the best fit for you. So I'm going to talk through each of the 3 equipment options a little bit more. And I believe you'll get sent more of a handout with a lot of the details that I am going to talk through. Just didn't want to clog up this slide. So to start, option number 1 is a card reader option, which we also refer to as the sort of bring your own device option. What that means is that if you select this equipment option, you're going to receive a card reader that connects to your existing cell phone via Bluetooth. Nothing actually gets plugged into your phone, but why it's called the bring your own device is because it does rely on a cell phone that you already own. So this card reader can only process EBT cards. It cannot process debit or credit cards. But the nice thing about this option is that it allows you to keep using your own cell phone and your own cellular network for this card reader to work. So for those of you who live in areas that maybe only get cell service from certain providers, this might be the best fit for you. just want to note for this option that because you are using your own cell phone and your own cellular service, a farmer's market or direct marketing farmer will need to continue to pay for their own cell service. But the device itself, the card reader, and any transaction fees are covered for the duration of the grant. So that's option number one. Option number two is the iPad option. Important to note that for this option, the iPad will only work in areas that either have Verizon cellular service or that you have access to reliable Wi-Fi wherever you plan to use the iPad. What comes with the iPad is also a card reader, all the software you'll need, a printer so you can print your receipts from these transactions, and any training information you might need or training support. In this option, you do not have to pay for the transaction fees again or for the cellular service through Verizon that is needed to operate the iPad during the duration of the grant. But again, just want to highlight that for this option to be the best option for you, we'd recommend that you either live or operate in an area that does have pretty consistent Verizon service or reliable Wi-Fi that you can lean on. So finally, the third option is a standalone wireless card reading device called the Verifone VX680. This device comes with a built-in printer, so it doesn't connect to anything, it does it all. Again, with this option, you do not have to pay for the transaction fees or the cellular service or anything needed to operate the device during the grant period. The big sticking point for this option is that I've been told it works best or only works in areas that do have consistent AT&T cell service, and that this will not work super well on Wi-Fi. So those are the three options. Looks like we've moved right along to the next slide. So once you've picked which option is the best fit for you, what happens after the grant period ends? So if I haven't already made it clear, the grant period goes through September of this year, which is why we say we stop accepting applications at the end of August, just because by the time we would process your application and potentially get you the equipment, it might be after the grant period ends. So we have that 1 month period between those two dates. But after that September 30th date, if you've applied and received equipment through our grant, if you still wish to use the device, you absolutely can. It will just involve you coordinating with one of the two companies that provided the equipment to you through the state. So those two companies are called either FIS is one or Novodia, depending on which equipment option you selected of the three. One of those two companies is going to be the one that you coordinate with. And essentially you just have to sort of work with them from there, and the state sort of bows out as being the middleman. That said, the device itself is already paid for through this grant, so you won't have any fees associated with paying for or paying off the device. That might have been my last slide. Yep. So if you have any questions, I believe at multiple points in this PowerPoint, that email address is there and I will manage that inbox. So feel free to send us questions or applications right in there. So thanks everybody. I think I handed off to Sarah. Yep, there we go.
Yes. Hi, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sarah Smith, and I am the Policy Systems and Environment Specialist for FoodWise at the University of Wisconsin-Madison Division of Extension. FoodWise is a SNAP-Ed funded nutrition education and health prevention program where we work to support families with limited incomes in accessing affordable, quality, nutritious food in 71 of 72 counties. Next slide, please. So today, sorry, my notes got up. So one of the ways we do this is by partnering with our local farmers markets across the state. We provide education to families on how to use their federal nutrition benefits and shop at farmers markets for the best produce. We work with market managers and vendors to create and sustain successful electronic benefit transfer programs. And we help promote using EBT benefits at farmers markets through digital advertising and outreach. So today I'm going to go over the basics of how a farmer's market can run a successful EBT program at their market. This can bring both new business to the market as well as support the local health of your community. So there's several ways to establish a successful EBT program. So the first step is to decide on how your program will operate. So the first example is a centrally managed system. So this is where one entity, which can be the market or a community partner who manages the EBT program for the market. And this is where shoppers go to one location at a market to purchase either tokens or other script with their SNAP benefits, where they then go take that and redeem it for eligible items at vendors throughout the market. With a centralized system, only one piece of EBT processing equipment is needed for the entire market to accept SNAP benefits. And markets are also then able to set policies on whether or not vendors must accept SNAP payment for eligible items. And the system doesn't require, but the system does require either dedicated staff or volunteer time to manage. The second way to operate a program is to have it managed at the vendor level. In this way, each vendor at the market becomes responsible for their own FNS license, their EBT processing system, and then their own accounting. Each of these systems have various pros and cons for them, which we will actually share in more detail after the webinar to keep us going today. Next slide, please. So once you've decided what kind of system to use, it's time for you to apply for your FNS license and get your bank account set up. Andrew very much showed us how to go through that process, so I'm not going to talk about it. And so for the rest of this presentation, I will be focusing mostly on operating a centrally managed EBT program. The other thing to make sure is that you do have a bank account set up in order for USDA to deposit, redeem SNAP benefits, and then for you to reimburse your vendors who do participate in your program. Next slide, please. So once you become an authorized retailer, you will also need to select how you will process your EBT transactions. So Jess shared with us an opportunity for various equipment that can be funded through the grant, which is really awesome to have available to get that equipment paid for and have the fees covered initially. So a few ways to actually do the equipment. First is that you could get a wired point of service terminal. This is a cost-effective way to process transactions, but does require electricity and a phone line. So it can often be hard for the market set up, in a parking lot to be able to get that. You would get a card reading machine that shoppers would then just swipe their Quest cards with. The second is a wireless point of service terminal that Jess shared a lot about. These do require internet access or cellular data services, but are portable, and you can also have those options for credit and debit transactions as well. And then finally, if you do actually anticipate processing very few transactions on a regular basis, there is a manual system where you can call in transactions and mail vouchers in for reimbursement. So that is probably truly the most cost-effective option, but not necessarily always the most convenient. So one note just for you to, with any equipment or any way of processing, you will always need to provide a receipt to SNAP shoppers because that is a requirement for USDA. So next slide, please. So after identifying your equipment, you'll need to figure out how your shoppers will actually redeem their benefits. Centralized market systems choose either to use a token system or a paper script. Shoppers go to wherever the market sets up their EBT equipment, so usually the information stand, and then they can purchase so many dollars worth of tokens or script to use with the vendors at the market. There are advantages and disadvantages to either one, but this is also an opportunity to make sure that the material lasts, you brand it with your market, and that you make sure it's in usable monetary increments. And that last point is, so you'll see the picture of a dollar token. Vendors are not allowed to give cash change for tokens. So all sales will need to be in increments that align with however you set up that system. Next slide, please. So you will then need to be able to notify people of how and where to use their benefits. So you'll want to make sure that you have signs available to both educate shoppers and vendors about the program, to identify vendors at the market who accept SNAP benefits and have eligible products. And this is also a great opportunity to help promote your program. So this is just an example of a sign that is actually available on the extension website. Okay, next slide, please. Then you will also need to figure out how you're going to do accounting for your program. So once you have it all set up, you'll have to consider how you're going to gather tokens or script from vendors, how you will then reimburse them, what's the timeline for that, frequency, and whether it will be through cash check or some other methods. You'll also want to make sure that you're maintaining transaction logs to ensure you have really accurate records of all SNAP transactions that have been made. Next slide. So now that your systems are set up, it's really time to get recruiting and training your vendors. You'll want to identify vendors who sell products that are eligible for purchase from SNAP. Here we have an example of a resource, again, from Extension, of all of the SNAP eligible items that FoodShare members can use at the market. So this is available on our website that we will share later. And then once you've recruited your vendors, you'll want to train them on what products are eligible, how to accept benefits at your market, and then how they will get reimbursed and make sure that they are complying with any FNS USDA rules. Next slide. So in addition to training your vendors, you'll want to make sure that you do have dedicated staff or volunteers to run the program. A weekly market can require anywhere from 5 to 10 hours of time each week to manage the program, and staff do need to be consistent to ensure accuracy, prevent fraud, and also be there to be a friendly face to help vendors and shoppers with the program. Some markets, this can be the market manager, and many others, it can be volunteer or another hired staff. It really just depends on the needs of your market and the size, but it's definitely very important to have someone that is dedicated to that effort. Okay, so then finally, once you have all the parts ready to go, you will want to promote your program. Make sure to have signs identifying where and how to redeem your benefits. Consider partnering with community organizations to promote your program, and where available, consider working with Extension to provide on-site education at your market. So then finally, these are some resources that are available to support your work. First, you can access resources from Extension, and our staff are also able to provide either on-site education for FoodShare members to be able to use their benefits and know what to do with the produce that they may be purchasing. And then we also, depending on location, can provide technical assistance and support for getting these types of programs up and running. And then finally, there are several resources available from the Nutrition Incentive Hub, the Farmers Market Coalition, and then USDA has several trainings on their website of how to operate a program and really make sure you're meeting those federal guidelines. Oh, and yeah, so thank you. Several people have contributed information to this presentation, so thank you all for your time. And I will send it over to Sheena.
Thanks a lot. I'm very impressed by everybody's timing. I'm going to try to get through this without having a sneezing fit, but if I go mute for a random amount of time, excuse me, my allergies are getting the best of me. So I work for Rooted. It's a nonprofit that runs many agricultural related programs, one of which is Troy Farm. Next. Troy Farm is a 5-acre urban agriculture farm on Madison's north side. We have a 200-member CSA and sell to non-members at our farm stand on Thursday evenings and at the Northside Farmers Market on Sunday mornings. I think you're getting ahead of me. Go back to the, yeah, there we go. So in 2018, Troy Farm transitioned to a full market share model. At that time, we applied for a SNAP machine through a similar program that Jess outlined earlier. So for the market share, for people who don't know, this means members sign up for their membership at the beginning of the season like other CSAs, but instead of getting a box delivered, they receive farm credit, which they spend on whatever veggies they want throughout the season, which feels very similar to shopping at a farmer's market. We found the system to work better for folks who are new to eating farm fresh food. And we have the advantage of being in the city. 75% of our members already picked up at the farm, so it wasn't a huge transition for us. Next. Troy is a member of the Fair Share CSA Coalition, which has long led a program called Partner Shares. This partnership allows us to offer sliding scale discounts for membership up to 75% off based on income. I want to mention that there are many benefits to becoming a Fair Share sponsored farm, but I'll stick to the benefits related to SNAP processing for the purpose of this discussion. Fair Share will process SNAP payments for any Partner Shares member for any sponsored farm. So that means any Fair Share Coalition farm, if they want to participate in this program, they can do that, and Fair Share will actually become the SNAP retailer for them. But the system can be cumbersome and awkward for participants. Any participant has to fill out an application for the farm and one for the Partner Shares program. This can be confusing, and it kind of can sometimes for people feel like they're not only signing up for two things, but they might have to pay for two things. After that, they're asked to fill out 5 of the manual vouchers, which are mailed to them with their information and the date they want that fee to be processed and the amount of the processing fee, and mail that back to Fair Share. Fair Share staff then runs those SNAP participant numbers and totals from their office each month. I'm really grateful for Fair Share for running this system, and it benefits so many CSA participants, but there are definitely advantages to becoming your own SNAP retailer. I will say Fair Share does a good job promoting the Partner Shares program. They run Bike the Barns. It's a huge event to promote and raise funds for the program. At Rooted, we do our own advertising on social media and our newsletters, and then through the network of the Northside Farmers Market, where we sell on Sundays. Next. So here's how it works for us. Members select SNAP as their payment method when they sign up at the beginning of the year. And SNAP cards are charged on the second Thursday or Sunday of each month at the market. So we let people know, we usually pick one. So I was saying the second, but we'll sometimes make it the third. But some members have requested alternative days based on when their benefits are renewed. So for example, if your benefits are renewed on the 15th and we're running the card on the 12th, you may find yourself short some months. We try to accommodate these requests as much as possible, as does Fair Share. So, if you need to be on the 3rd Thursday instead of the 2nd, because that's when your card re-ups, that's when we do it. But we charge the card every month. Many SNAP customers receive a discount through the Partner Shares program. So it is 1/5 of the remaining balance that we charge for 5 months, which correlates well with a 20-week or 20-ish week CSA season. Next. This is kind of what our machine looks like. Seems similar to option 3 from Jess's presentation. It comes with its own data, which is nice because for us at least, I don't know if it's AT&T, but it seems to work better than our cellular data on our iPad. Ours does also process credit cards, which it sounds like is different than the current options available. And the processing fee is comparable to PayPal or Square. And we pay about $20 a month in usage fees. So when we applied for a similar grant, we basically got the machine for free, and that was it. I recognize that this entire system would be harder for a CSA with traditional drop sites. I think there are probably creative solutions. One is obviously to sign up for the manual voucher system, though, like I said, that can be kind of cumbersome. Other possibilities are to pick one drop site once a month that all SNAP users have to use, and that would use limited staff hours to just run those cards once a month. or if possible, depending on your situation, having SNAP users be on farm pickup only. But I think that, you know, it'd be up to each farm and their unique position and systems to find the easiest way to physically process a card once a month. Next. Lastly, I just want to briefly touch on some of the advantages to being your own SNAP retailer in regards to incentive programs at farmers markets. So Sarah was talking a lot about this, but in Dane County, our incentive program is called Double Dollars, and it's primarily run through the Community Action Coalition. And so for most markets, the SNAP users go to the info booth, just like everywhere else, and scan their card to receive the tokens that represent twice the value, up to $50. Then they can spend those tokens for most things other than prepared food. When non-member customers shop at Troy Farms on-site market on Thursday, so we are the only vendor, we simply scan their card for the total amount spent and report the remainder to the Community Action Coalition for reimbursement. So we are technically a farmer's market through that program, but we skip the tokens and everything because everybody's just going and paying through us. And at the Troy Farmers Market stand, we participate like other vendors on Sundays at the Northside Farmers Market. However, when the Double Dollars program ran out of funding in some previous years, we asked our members to contribute to a standalone matching fund, which we then used to continue the program when other farms could no longer participate. So we simply ran the card for half the total spent, as we had been doing at our own farm, and used the remainder from the donated fund to offset the costs. And the market managers were really grateful to be able to offer this program that some of the participants had become reliant on. And I think that is it for me.
Great. Thank you to all of our presenters. Lots of great content. Now, if anyone has any questions, please, you can feel free to either unmute yourself or put them in the chat. As well as here's all of our presenters and their contact information. You can feel free to also reach out to them directly. There were a few questions that came in through the chat. I think most of them were answered along the way. One that that has not been answered that's in the chat as of now is Melinda asked, so if there was an individual farmers sign up to accept SNAP benefits for CSA shares, that means they can also accept SNAP benefits at the farmers market. So I don't know who wants to take that one.
My understanding, this is Andrew, is that the participating farms that are part of the CSA Fair Share CSA Coalition, they can't use that to accept benefits at other farmers markets. But maybe, Sheena, I think maybe you're the most familiar with that process.
Yeah, if you're using Fair Share, you can't. But if you are your own retailer, I mean, I think you would have to check with your farmers market managers and whatever procedure there is there. But you definitely can. Most of the season when we're at if you're in a farmers market where you already have an info booth that has sort of a SNAP accepting station, then people should probably just continue to use that. But if you are your own merchant, I don't know of any reason why you wouldn't be able to accept SNAP at the farmers market for non-CSA members.
Okay. The next question in the chat, they just kind of move around on me, is from Miranda, and it's how do we as farmers actually use the equipment?
This is Jess. I may jump in there. I'm not sure, Miranda, if you're referring to the equipment through the DHS grant or any of the options that Sarah may have mentioned. But for our equipment, any of the three options, as far as I'm aware, comes with the opportunity to set up a training with the company, either FIS or with Novodia, who provided the equipment. So hopefully that can help answer specific or technical questions about how it's used, if that answers your question.
Ours came with a training. So once we got our equipment, they contacted us, the company who actually makes the equipment, and we had an over the phone training. It's extremely simple. It's just like running a credit card, except you have to hand them the machine to put in their PIN at one point.
Perfect. There were a couple questions throughout the chat about the PowerPoint and some of the materials and the links. And so all of that will be sent out along with recording after the presentation. So anything, any of the links, all this information, a whole lot of information will be sent out to everyone after the presentation. So that will all be sent to the email that you did register at. So let's see. Questions keep moving on me. I thought I took the easy job, but let's see. For options 1 and 2 for the grant, are there transaction fees in addition to the $20 monthly fees?
Yeah, I just put an answer in. For the duration of the grant. For any of the options 1, 2, or 3, any monthly or transaction fees are going to be covered by the state. After that point, like I said, it's sort of up to the farmer's market or direct marketing farmer to work with FIS or with Novodia to sort of negotiate how those fees will look moving forward. But through September, if you were to apply today, for example, essentially you're not paying anything unless you pick option 1, where you're paying for your own cellular service with your own cell phone.
And this is Andrew. I'd like to just follow up. So there are going to be a kind of it's like a cell phone package similar. There's going to be like a monthly fee, but then sometimes these are going to have transaction fees on top of that. I think that was part of the question. And all these different options vary on what they offer. I've heard about some plans where you can essentially suspend them in winter months, so you're not paying that monthly subscription cost. Not all plans do that. Some pieces of equipment allow you to also, as Sheena talked about, also allow you to run credit cards and debit cards. Not all machines do that. So one of the things that's going to be included in this packet of information is kind of a matrix, a grid of various different options that we've learned about. And they will highlight the 3 options that are being funded by the grant currently, along with some additional ones.
Great, thank you both. One of the questions, another question that came in from Angela was, my county does not offer the WIC / senior FMNP. How do we apply for this program in our county?
I saw on the DHS website that I think only 50 of the counties of the 72 offer this, but Sarah, are you familiar with how this person could handle that situation, or are they just out of luck?
I think that would be, we'd want to reach out, and actually, Angela, I do know you, but I would want to reach out to the state office on that program to see what the status is for specific counties, and if it can be expanded to those counties.
Okay, perfect. The next question was, do we still need an account with Square? So I don't.
Well, it depends on what type of equipment that you get. If you end up going with a piece, with a EBT processing equipment that can handle credit cards or debit cards, then you wouldn't need Square because you could do that. If the piece of equipment that you get cannot handle regular credit cards or debit cards, then you would still need some other option to handle that if that's what you offer your customers.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what Andrew said. Unfortunately, through this federal grant through DHS, the pieces of equipment can only process EBT cards. They cannot handle debit or credit transactions. So like Andrew said, if you're assuming you're also receiving customers who want to pay with credit or debit cards, you would probably need to maintain that Square account as a supplement to the EBT equipment that we're providing.
I'll say we have both, even though our machine does run credit cards, because we like the itemized reporting of Square, because the credit card transactions on this machine are pretty coded and cryptic, and you don't really get any information about what you've sold. But there is a little bit of an awkward moment sometimes when you're processing everybody else on your nice, little iPad, and then you lunk out this 3-pound black machine from 1987 to like run the SNAP benefits. So there have been occasions when there's many transactions going on that just for an equity reason, I'll stick with the SNAP machine for everything.
And just to clarify, our Veriphones through our grant are not from the 90s. I do think they're new. They may look old, but hopefully they still function like new.
Great. That's actually all the questions we have in the chat at the moment. I don't know if anyone wants to unmute themselves, if they have any further questions, or any other questions. Oh, save, someone put one in the chat. If our farmer's market has a separate store that already has an EBT machine, but we need to get a separate machine for the farmer's market, can the store apply for a new number?
So I'm going to answer part of the question and then maybe hand it to Andrew, who can clarify. At least for the purposes of our grant, we can supply one piece of free equipment per FNS number. So I'm going to ask Andrew on this question if they can apply for a separate number, but if if his answer is yes, then you could apply for another piece of equipment under that new FNS number.
I don't see why you couldn't apply for a new FNS number. I'm not sure what the strategy behind that would be, but I think it comes down to owners. Some of the supporting documentation are connected to owners and the social security numbers associated with that. And I could maybe see pros and cons to, having shared equipment versus having them be separate accounts.
Okay, this is Kathy, and I asked that question. So we just didn't know if to have a farmer's market account, if it needed a different number than the store. Can the store run another machine under that number that just pays for the farmer's market EBT cards? Or because they said that they would not have room within the store to handle EBT cards plus their own business during market days. So we weren't sure if we had to apply for a separate number for the farmer's market, or if they could run it under their number, or if they had to apply for a separate number. That's what we were confused about.
It looks like Meg Kilkenny from Milwaukee had an answer that said that it's still not allowable to operate more than one location with the same FNS number. And if that's the case, I'm just kind of wondering about Troy Farm and if that's considered different locations or the same location. But
I have a question. This is Jen Falk. I received my equipment from FIS last week, and I tried doing it myself, and admittedly I failed. So I see in the letter that FIS says that they're going to call me. Do they just call me out of the blue? Should I call and schedule the training? How should I handle that?
So I was hoping someone else might jump in. I actually am not super familiar with what happens after, the state's role in getting you the equipment, but as far as I know, if there is a number on there, they're pretty supportive. You're more than welcome to call. And I was under the impression that it's a scheduled call. They're not just gonna call you and hope you're available. So I would recommend reaching out to them, or if you have any trouble, you're also welcome to reach out to me and I can help facilitate. My email's on the screen, or an email that I have access to is on the screen.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep.
They did contact, the company I worked with did contact me for the training, but I did also use the number on the actual equipment quite a few times to ask various things of them and their customer service, and it works pretty easily.
Any other questions, comments, things we can kind of help decipher through while you have us all on the line?
Well, it sounds like things are wrapping up a few minutes early. So thank you everyone for attending today. And just to reiterate what we've said earlier, this information will be sent out to all the people that registered. And we will include some additional materials. If you have any other questions that we didn't feel like you got fully answered, feel free to email me or whoever you think is most appropriate. And, I will work to get those answers for you.